And we are live. Welcome back, everybody, to Behind the ToolBelt episode 247. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday edition. Today we have actually two special guests. Stay tuned. We will be back right after our short intro from our sponsors.
GC Backer. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. Roofing, siding, windows, gutter, solar. GC Backer, GC Backer.
Is your lead flow down? Whether you're a company owner, office staff, salesperson, or installer, you're a roofing rock star. We help you get more leads with custom SEO, Google Ads, and a pro website.
GC Backer.
Okay, and we are back. Welcome back, everybody, on this Wednesday edition. We have two fantastic guests. I'm going to do the best that I can. I think Facebook kicked me out here. So if I seem distracted for a second, that's probably because I'm trying to get a code to get back into Facebook. So I'm assuming we're streaming live. So if anybody out there in the internet world sees or hears us right now, please let us know. So anyhow, we have Dylan McCabe and Jenna Lawson with the Limitless Group. How the hell are you guys today?
Awesome. How are you?
Fantastic. Besides, the internet is not cooperating with me that well today, but I think we will get through it. I'm a professional, right? So I'm going to have to ad-lib as best as I possibly can here until Facebook decides to cooperate with me. Dylan, how are you doing?
Doing good, man.
Good. So what's been going on? I know it's been a minute since you've been on the show with us, and I know a lot has happened since then. I can only imagine, and plus some of the things that I've saw you guys doing and do right now. But for those that are just now tuning in or don't know who Dylan is or Jenna or Limitless, why don't you give us, we'll start with Dylan here. Why don't you just give us like a brief, small little, background of yourself and what led to the evolution of Limitless?
Yeah, thanks. So Dylan McCabe, I'm one of the co-founders of the Limitless Roofing Group. We're actually a GPO. And if you've never heard of GPO before, it stands for Group Purchasing Organization. They have these in healthcare, HVAC, plumbing, flooring, etc. They don't exist in roofing. So I got into roofing 4 years ago and started Limitless CEO Groups, which is just a peer advisory group, kind of mastermind type thing. and started asking our members, have you ever been a part of a buying group before? And they're like, what do you mean? Like a group that buys roofing companies? I said, no, collective buying power. We all come together. We form stronger relationships with suppliers and vendors. And usually that results in more business for them. And it results in discounts for us. And everybody said, no, we've never been a part of anything like that. And I thought, man, this cannot be a reality. I mean, this is roofing. Every roofing company buys a lot of materials, spends money with vendors. So long story short, we started a buying group 2.5 years ago. And it's been an exciting journey. But the most exciting part really recently, Ty, is we brought Robert Posey on board about a year ago. And then a few months ago, we brought Jenna on board. And it's just like, man, now we're sailing the ship with the right crew. It feels great. And we're rocking and rolling, man. It's exciting.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. And Robert, he's a near and dear friend of mine. And I know he's got to be an asset to your, your guys' squad over there, because he is just, brilliant mind. We've used him for, some sales and marketing stuff like that. And I first met him in the Revolt group, and he was one of the coaches, I guess, teaching us roofers over there some stuff that we didn't know about our businesses or how we can actually improve our business. So I know he's going to be a huge asset for you. And same with Jenna. That's kind of where I met Jenna for the first time over there. And I know she's an ass kicker in many ways. So so when you started the Limitless thing, so how did this evolve? Like, you just saw a big, huge void? You came from the medical industry. Let's start here. Did you ever imagine that you would end up in the roofing space?
No.
So how did that happen? How did you get connected into the roofing space?
Well, I was in healthcare at a startup, a software and consulting company that was doing really well. I say startup, they were doing really well as a startup and growing, and they're still doing extremely well. And I was their first account executive, and called on doctors, and we sold enterprise level software that was really expensive. But I was there for about 2 years, and I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I like to start things and create my own things. And so there was just an unrest, or I call it a holy discontent, while I was there, because I just wanted to run my own company. So long story short, I was looking at what to get into next. And a buddy of mine named Miller Whedon, he's one of the owners of Limitless now, but I would run into him at like Christmas parties and stuff. And his wife and my wife are really good friends. And I noticed every time I was around him, he seemed really relaxed. He would mention in passing, like, yeah, I think I'm going to take the month of December off and do some hunting and this. I'm like, what does this guy do? And he was a roofer. He had a roofing company, and he'd been in roofing for a long time. His dad started the company and stuff. So I thought, man, let's get together and talk about that. Can we do lunch sometime? I'm looking to what to get into next. I'm an entrepreneurial guy. I've been in sales for years as well. So long story short, we had lunch, and we both agreed this might be a good idea, but let's talk to our wives, because they're really good friends and we don't want to mess that up. So we talked to our wives, and they were both like, yeah, we thought you guys should have been working together years ago. So Miller was like, look, man, I'll bring you on as a sales guy, but in 1.5 to 2 years, you're going to know everything you need to know to start your own company, and you're an entrepreneurial guy. And he said, I will help you do that. And I was just like, wow, what a way to start, a relationship. And of course, I come in with all these ideas. Let's start a podcast. Let's start, all these things. And so we started some stuff together. And but the idea of the buying group just kept coming up, and we just couldn't turn away from it. The opportunity was too big, and it's kind of a blue ocean since there's no competition.
Yeah, no, and I like how you put that. Like, there's definitely a blue ocean. There's not many, buying groups, and things of that nature. So where have you seen it be most beneficial to a contractor?
Yeah.
Like, why would I want to join? Why would I want to join Limitless, and what benefits would I get from it?
Yeah. Well, it comes down to relationships. You get a different relationship with a supplier or manufacturer when you join our group, because like I was texting back and forth with the VP of Beacon yesterday. It's that kind of a relationship. And we get to go to the table. We get to sit at the table, have these conversations on behalf of our group. And the result is you reduce your cost of business, and you're going to get to access programs that we've negotiated, that we've spent hours and hours, and sometimes even years, no joke, years negotiating deals on behalf of our members with companies like Tamco, Beacon, Atlas, SRS. And then there's just a whole list of vendors as well that we work with, like Lead Scout, Hook Agency, and so on, that they've been generous with our group. They've said, look, we want to form a strong relationship with you. We're willing to make this very beneficial for your members. So you get better relationships and you reduce your cost of business, which means a better net profit at the end of the year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And cash flow is a big deal. I mean, that's a whole other topic that, we might even want to, venture down here. But for Jenna, let's, I got a couple questions for Jenna here. Why don't you give us a little bit of your background for those that may not know who you are yet, and hopefully they'll get to know who you are by the time we're done with this podcast. But give us the kind of nutshell version of, where you came from, how you got into the roofing industry, and then what role you're playing today in Limitless.
Yeah, awesome. So back in 2021, I started with roofing.com. So I was with them. I happened to stumble into the roofing industry. I was right out of college. I started working social media marketing for an insurance company and applied randomly for a job posting. At the time, it was roofing community. So I started there. I was doing some marketing work, and then I transitioned to doing events. So I was the events manager for RoofCon 2021, and then I became director of events for RoofCon 2022. In 2023, I did 95% of the planning. I just wasn't there to see it come to life. I got a new opportunity outside of the roofing industry that required me to move. I think I had a week to find someplace to live, and I started working for an agency that does live events for brands like Ferrari, Bugatti. So it was the exact opposite of roofing. And soon after, I kind of realized that I love the event space and roofing. I love the roofing community. I love just everything about the roofing industry. And I really missed, the event world, especially. So I made a post on Facebook saying, hey, like I'm wanting to get back into the industry. I previously worked with Robert Posey at roofing.com. And then he was like, hey, we're looking for this. And I was like, well, I've got marketing, social media, a little bit of selling experience, and then also events, which is my jam. And then met with Miller and Dylan, and the rest is history. So now I'm kind of doing marketing, events, client success. I'm working with the partners. So I'm kind of doing a lot for Limitless, and I love every bit of it. Right now I'm really focused on the event that we have coming up October 1st, which is less than 2 weeks away. So it's going to be my first event that I've planned since RoofCon 2023. So I'm so excited to be back doing it. I'm on an amazing team, great people. So it's great to be back in the roofing industry.
Yeah. So when you left the roofing industry for that short little stint, what were you thinking to yourself at that time? Like, I am never going back to the roofing industry. And if that was the case, how long did it take before you realized, like, oh shit, I need to get back to the roofing industry? If any of that even happened. So walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah. So honestly, I never thought I'd be back in the industry. That was, I definitely wanted to branch out. I wanted to plan other types of events, and I started working for that agency. It was a whole different, type of events that they were doing. I was working with, Ferrari owners, and that was awesome. I got to travel to Miami. But after about, I want to say like 3 months, 2 or 3 months of being with that company, I realized that I wasn't getting the fulfillment, and it was short term. It was fun at these events, but it wasn't fulfilling like events, like RoofCon. It was not fulfilling. Like the people, I couldn't take away the memories that these events in the roofing industry, were giving me. So soon after, I kind of I took some time really thinking, and then, back April, I was like, I can't do it anymore. I need to go back to what I'm used to. And I went back to it. But yeah, I had no desire to get back into the roofing industry, honestly, but everything falls back in place. So.
Yeah, it does. It does. And we missed you, by the way. That's why I kind of picked on you a little bit, because you played a huge part and role in the success, I think, as far as RoofCon and Revolt and things like that. And I know you're a team player and a hard worker. So, being on, Dylan's team now, I can only imagine, how much of an asset you have been over, on their team. So what are you guys trying to accomplish, with this, what was your vision? Let's start with Dylan. Like, what was your vision when you wanted to create an event?
Well, the event is just kind of a part of our overall vision. Our vision for the company is to elevate the roofing industry by building a future where every roofing company, regardless of size, has the support and resources to achieve limitless success. And that happens when you bring people together. So in our group, there's a free level, and guys get to join, company owners get to join and get access to all the buying power for free. But we have a paid level where there's a community. That's where the real turning points occur for guys, when they can talk to one another and say, how are you handling cash flow? How are you handling recruiting? I've got a TPO job coming up. I've never done that before. Can I talk to somebody for an hour? That's where the life change takes place. So our event is like a one-day experience of what it's like to be a part in our paid group. That's our vision for that, is get as many roofing owners together as we can in a room and have an event that's not just speakers and famous people. Have an event where it's roofing owners talking about processes, about culture, about scale, a panel that you're going to be on where you can open up and receive candid questions from the audience. That's the goal, is to get roofing owners together and have hours of networking, sharing, hot seats, roundtable discussions, and really make it life-changing. Like we talked about that. We're like, what do we want to happen at this event? We want lives to be changed. So that's the goal. I mean, I'm not saying we're going to do it with perfection. We are not a finished product. I mean, there's going to be things we can improve on, of course, but that's the goal.
Mm-hmm. No, that's so good, because a lot of people, I think a lot of people, when they get invested with things like this, it becomes more so about them and what they're going to get out of it. And Dylan, in our last conversations that we had, I know the type of person that you are. You're a giving person. You want to see people succeed and things like that. Your core values align a lot with mine. So this is great. And that's kind of why I asked what your vision was, because I knew you were going to say something along those lines, like where you just want to impact as many contractors' lives as possible on all facets and all fronts of the pains of business, whether it's cash flow or, just to put people in the same room together and network and create and galvanize relationships. Because let's face it, our network has become our net worth, right? And it's because of knowing people like Jenna, Robert, Dylan. It's because that's what has made our businesses so successful, was through meeting people like you at events like this. That especially because it's not a roof con, at least not yet. And I don't know if that's like your vision someday, is to have like 4,000 people to show up at one of your events. But I personally feel like these smaller, more intimate, 500 plus people type of events is where I've gotten most of my nuggets from, where I left with, where I felt like it could be more vulnerable. I had more one-on-one time. The groups were smaller and more intimate, and I was able to take home, not just a relationship with somebody, but I was able to take with me, some knowledge that was true, authentic, not just like, hey, look at me kind of stuff. But I felt like in that room where it was smaller, we were all able to be more vulnerable. I think there wasn't so much going on. But Jenna, what's your vision for this? Because I know you're in it to win it, and you take ownership in this. So like, what's your vision for this?
My vision for this, I think that what makes this event different is the fact that it is owners only. So my vision for this is to, help contribute to this knowledge that these owners are getting from this event. Obviously I'm the planner, but I'm also working on the content side as well with the speakers, coming up with the hot seat topics, the roundtable discussions. I think I'm more on that side, more so than, past events. And I think by playing, the role of leaving the industry for a year and just being able to take back, the experiences, outside of the industry has really, really helped. So I really want to bring that to the industry, my experiences and how, I can help generate topics. And I think that this being an owners only event will definitely help with that, because we can concentrate on one thing. At events, it's broad topics, it's kind of everywhere. And this one is just going to be owner owner centric. And I think that that's why this event is so different. But I want to bring not just the planning side of things. I want to bring more to the table than I have at events previously. And with an event, being we're expecting around 350, 400 attendees. Goal is 500. I think that it does make it easier to do stuff like that, like you said. And with this being at a awesome venue, the Chiefs Stadium, it's the GEHA Field, Arrowhead Stadium. So long to say, but I think that it's going to be a great time. Our speakers are absolutely amazing. Their topics are unbelievable, and it's just going to be a lot of face-to-face time with these sponsors as well. I think with it all being in one room, it's going to be just so easy to really just be face-to-face with these owners and to figure out their needs and what types of people they're needing, help with recruiting, help with their marketing. I think that this is going to bring everything to the table that they're going to need and to improve on in their businesses.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the fact too that it's owners only, especially thinking back in my earlier days. God, I wish I would have had someplace to go 15, 20 years ago that was just owners only, let alone anywhere to go. I mean, there was really nowhere to turn. We didn't have the Facebook groups. We didn't have half of the tools that we had today to reach out to people. Like, I wasn't going to call the local competition up and say, hey man, let's go have lunch. I mean, I think things like that are happening more today because of social commerce and things like that. But back in the day, we didn't have anything like that. And I've always enjoyed whenever I had an opportunity to go and be around other owners, like-minded individuals, right? Away from my team, away from home, to just go out there and open my ears, right? There's a reason why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. And sometimes we just need to go to these places, but also ask questions too while we're there. So don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say here, but sometimes we just need to be around like-minded people going through the same struggles, open up, be vulnerable, and ask really good questions and pay attention. And also, what are we bringing to this as owners, right? Like those of us that are on the stage or those owners that are coming to attend this thing, like also, what are we, it's not always about like what we're taking from it, but it's like, what are we bringing to the table as well to the guy that might be struggling with something that I struggled with a year ago in business. So I really love the concept. I love what you guys are doing. And I feel like there needs to be more of this, because for us owners, sometimes we just need to get away from our teams or other salespeople. And let's face it, the struggles that we face as entrepreneurs is going to be way different than like a sales manager or a salesperson or accounts payable or receivable person. Like, we need to come back home to give these people direction, right? And where do we go other than the Limitless event in Kansas City to abstract this information, to be able to go home, to improve the quality of our businesses? I can't imagine anywhere else to go. And I know I'm super excited about this. So what, I guess after this event is happening, do you guys plan on doing like one more this year, or you're not going to schedule anything till next year? Like, what's on the horizon for the Limitless summits?
I think for now it's probably just an annual event, but we would like to do smaller events locally, get a group of 50 contractors together or whatever. But for now, an annual event. Once we get bigger, we'll probably do twice a year. But the focus will probably be our members, like just getting our members together in a big group. And it'll probably, I would like to see a bigger block of time for just that informal experience of hanging out together. Like, let's have lunch and then let's break for 2 hours. Go find 2 or 3 other guys, share your biggest challenge, and just talk. Like, to me, that would be worth, $1,000 a ticket. But we want to, we'll find out, we'll figure out a way to charge less, hopefully, as the events go on. But yeah, we definitely want to do more events, but we want to keep it, like you said, just that intimate setting, kind of like there's a mega church here in Dallas called Watermark, and it's massive. And if you go there and you don't know anybody, you're going to feel like, it's just an overwhelming experience, and you're not going to know anybody. It's going to feel really awkward. The way they've dealt with that is they decided, well, and I'm not a member there, by the way, but I know about the church. They're famous in the Dallas area because they do small groups so well. And if you meet somebody that goes to Watermark, it's all they talk about is their small group. They don't talk about the preaching on Sunday. They don't talk about how beautiful the campus is. They don't talk about all the amazing initiatives. It's their small group. So they keep getting bigger by getting smaller. And that's what we want to do with Limitless. Keep that small group kind of feel to it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I like that. I think you definitely get more out of the intimacy. And I think what starts to happen is you form a fellowship and a camaraderie, right? Like not only did I just leave with a bunch of stuff, but I just left with some friends, people that now I feel a part of. Like I'm not the only one going through these situations. There's people all over the country that are. And that's where you guys are setting the stage and putting it out there where it's like, hey guys, if you're struggling with this, and I love the different topics that you guys have, you know, each topic, each speaker, how did you get where you're at? Like the 8-figure CEO panel, you know, that in itself, with having a few of us up on stage and with questions and answers and Q&A, I mean, that is, you know, that is probably one of the best things that you could potentially do, because how we got here may not be the same as the guy sitting next to me, and they may not have experienced what I experienced coming through, but with, you know, both of us giving both of our insights on whatever topic it might be may help people. And honestly, that's why when Jenna reached out to me, I was all in, because that's where I'm at in the season of my life. Like, where can I help people go, you know, fast forward through what I had to go through, and teach them like, hey, you know, this is what I did and it hurt really bad and it probably put us back about 6 months, or it was very costly, and like, what can I do to help people? And that's really just kind of like where I'm at in my life right now, is whether you're in sales, whether it's in marketing, because these are all skills that, you know, as entrepreneurs, I think we have to master all of these skills at one time. And at least for me, I thought I had to be, you know, the CFO, you know, the chief financial officer. I had to be the guy that was writing all the checks, and I had to be the guy that created the website and threw out all the marketing. And I was the guy that did all these things. And it was like, you know, after a while, I became mediocre at everything. I could not excel at anything in my life. And I know, for me early on, like I didn't know how to delegate. I thought nobody could do it no better than the way that I was doing it. And when the pain got great enough for me, and I started to open my ears at events just like this, I heard people talking about, like, we got to learn how to trust first and foremost. You got to learn how to delegate. You got to learn how to empower other people to get where you want to go. It's going to take more people than you. You know, and when I started to really hear these things by going to events like this, being around other owners, being around other entrepreneurs, you know, I started to realize that, like, okay, well, I need to stop spending my time on how to create a website. Like, I really need to, like, stop working in the business and start working on my business. And I didn't hear things like this until I started to attend events like you guys are hosting over there. And it's like, that's why this is so important. And I know right now events are kind of getting a bad rap on certain platforms. People are talking shit about, you know, events and stuff like this. But I'll be quite honest with you, when I went to my first Win the Storm conference 11, 12, 13 freaking years ago, however long ago it was, that's when I realized that I'm not alone in this. I'm not the only one that's out there. Plus, I also realized that I wasn't as hot shit as I thought I was on a silver platter, that I was just a cold turd on a paper plate. It like really opened my eyes to, like, holy shit, these guys are doing multiple high 8 figures, and maybe 1 or 2 of them were actually doing 9 figures. Like, and I couldn't even fathom that at the time. Like, I thought I was thinking big until I actually got in a room full of really big thinking people. And it's because of having these events like you guys are hosting. And I praise you guys, because I know it's not easy. You both probably have full-time jobs within Limitless, and here you are going over and beyond to impact our industry, my industry, that I love so deeply. So I can't praise you guys enough. So thank you. Let's talk about some changes that you think might be coming or have come to our industry that you guys see. What do you see from your side? I see it from the contractor side, but you guys are on kind of like the distribution side of things. So like, what changes do you see coming besides private equity?
Yeah, I know everybody mentions private equity, but the thing is private equity is really coming after the top 5% of companies. So, 90 to 95% of contractors out there really don't have a great chance at a really attractive transaction. But other than that, there's just, I'd say the majority of our members are doing storm restoration work, insurance work, Texas, Colorado, Florida. We are seeing a lot of scary stuff on the insurance side with deductibles going higher, carriers refusing to pay for a roof if it's not a certain age. All these issues coming out. It's scary might be the wrong word, but there's some shifts taking place, and I think my thought is it's going to force more of a retail model on the industry as a whole, because homeowners aren't going to be able to afford their roof. They are going to have to finance even their deductible. And so I think roofing companies, a lot of the ones that we interact with in Texas and Florida and Colorado, they're going to have to up their sales game, because they're used to just, hey, let's see if this roof can get bought. That's not much of a sales process. I've been in sales for years. I got into selling roofs 4 years ago, and I remember telling Miller, man, this is the easiest thing I've ever sold in my life. Like, I just went and crawled up on the roof, spotted damage, took some pictures, and said to the homeowner, I think you should file a claim. That's not a sales process. So I think, or it's a very simple sales process. So I think a lot of companies are going to be forced to get into a little bit more of a sophisticated process, where you're a consultant, you're helping the homeowner, you're giving them options, good, better, best, and you're offering financing as well.
No, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up. So how do you see, what steps should a contractor take, a roofing contractor take, if they're in the insurance game and in the area that they're struggling, to get claims paid for? What would you suggest that they do? What steps should they take to implement the retail model?
Man, I mean, I would reach out to somebody that's just a master at that. Like, whether it's somebody you meet at our event or a member in our group, or, I mean, look, I think the answer is community. It's people. So to go to the next level, it's going to be interacting with a person. So what I think everybody listening to this, you have to be a part of a community, whether it's Revolt or Limitless or the Roofing Academy with Randy Brothers. You've got to surround yourself with people who are a few steps ahead, because you're not going to get it out of a book. I don't care how many books you read. You can read a book this thick on scuba diving. You still don't know what it means to scuba dive until you've gone 30 feet under the water and breathe with that apparatus and depressurize your ear. You know nothing about scuba diving. So to get to the next level, you really have to plug yourself into a community. So that's what I would say. I would say find somebody at our event or on Facebook or in Revolt or in some community and say, look, you're doing retail. How do I do it as well? Because my business model right now is pretty fragile. It's dependent on one income stream, insurance work. I want to have multiple income streams. I'd like to learn how to start a service department. I'd like to get into commercial, dip my toes in that. I'd like to sell retail. You need 4 to 5 income streams so that even if they're variable, you have a constant of cash flow. And most roofing companies aren't doing that. But that's what I would do. And that's what happens in our group. We've got one guy in our group. He's in Texas. He's in a storm market, but all he does is sell retail. So all the guys in the group are like, oh my gosh, like why? How are you doing it? What are your margins? What is your sales process? How do you train your sales guys? So that's the key. It's everybody wants to figure out how, right? Like, how do I do this? But the answer is who, to steal the title from the book, Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. Like, you need to find the right who, and they'll show you the how.
Fantastic response, Dylan. That was so good. I 100% agree with you that you have to have multiple irons in the fire, generating revenue for your business. And I really feel like, if you're going to stay sustainable and relevant, because there's ebbs and flows as well to storms. I mean, I know Texas is a huge storm market, and maybe it's a anomaly because there is so many storms that come through Texas, and maybe you don't need to necessarily, consider the retail side of things. But I for myself would want to be prepared. So what if we go through a whole entire season without storms? Like, what are we going to do? Are we able to pivot from, storm restoration, insurance paid jobs to a retail model? Like, how are we supposed to market ourselves? And for one little simple nugget, they're already doing it. Like, so those guys are outdoor knocking, like you're already doing some of it now as far as like, creating brand awareness and marketing your company. But you just need to be more intentional about it if you're going to market yourself, whether it's putting yard signs out in strategic places, putting door hangers out. Like, you just got to do a couple more things. And that's just something small, geo targeting with Facebook ads, like all these things in these neighborhoods that you're canvassing already that you would typically knock. So instead of knocking for storm, you're knocking for retail, right? You might have to knock 50 doors opposed to 10 to get an inspection. You just got to put in more work. But while you're out in the streets, beating the bricks, brick by brick, you're putting yard signs out, you're putting door hangers out there, you're running Facebook geo-targeted ads, you're using companies that you do direct mail. Like, you just got to put a little more effort into it. And that's just one little simple thing. So there's that. But then there's like, how do I create an estimate? Right? When you're so used to, Symbility or Xactimate, you're so used to that. So how do you write an estimate? So my 2 cents in this is to have your teams well versed, obviously in Xactimate, Symbility, but also the retail model, right? The good, the better, the best. Or GAF has a gold, a silver, and a system plus warranty. Like, teach your teams. Like, GAF, shingle manufacturers will bring outdoor salespeople in and teach your teams. I don't care where you're at in the country, on how to sell a gold pledge warranty, how to sell a silver pledge warranty, and how to sell a system plus warranty, and the difference and the components that go into it, and the value in the warranties, right? So that's one facet. Chuck Tokey's out there. He does an amazing job on how to sell retail. So there's definitely a little more work that might have to go into it, but at least from my experience, the fruits of your labor are more fruitful, right, when it comes to the retail model of things. Like, because with insurance, you get the scope of work, and it's basically the insurance company's like, here, this is what we're going to pay you. And somehow you need to figure out how you can manipulate the job into it making sense so we can get the job done for the homeowner. Well, on the retail model side of things, they're basically, the homeowner's telling you what they want. So then you're molding the financial aspect of it around their needs and their wants. So for me, it's a lot easier to sell the job than it is to just sell them on a deductible. So anyhow, Jenna, give us some of your feedback on some of the things that you're seeing from your side, outside looking into our industry right now, since you've been in our industry. What has changed, and what changes do you think are coming?
Speaking from the marketing side of things, like Dylan was just saying, think about who, not how. I think that since, me being in the industry last year and now, I just feel like the collaboration is, it's here now more than ever. The collaboration of everyone leaning on each other on Facebook, of everyone sharing each other's posts, we had actually a talk yesterday of how we can get better at marketing, because you can do 1,000 posts a day but only get one like, because everybody is trying to promote their product, promote their event, promote a speaker, anything. So we really had a talk yesterday of what can we do, and Robert actually came up with the idea of what's in it for me. In the industry, with these events, it's we can advertise the event all we want to. We can say, it's going to be here. It's going to be at this awesome venue. Here are the dates. Here's a cool graphic. But if they don't know what they're going to experience, what they can take away from this, they're not going to attend. So I think that more than ever is present now. But also just how, like I said, everybody's leaning on each other more than I saw last year. Every time I'm, on Facebook, someone's visiting another roofing company, they're collaborating with another business owner. I think that's definitely been a change. And I think it's only going to, increase because it's working. We made a post yesterday. I worked with John Cenac on like his, the what's in it for me post. And, that's already gotten so much traction, and that was an hour ago. So that kind of just goes to show that we need to lean on each other. Who, not how. We need to stop worrying about the results, and we need to focus on who we can lean on. So that's what I've seen personally from the marketing side of things. I can speak on that. And then with the partnership side of things as well, I think just, I've never really seen that side of the industry, but I'm working with these companies that, were exhibitors at RoofCon that I've, gotten to speak to, work with, help out, making their experience at the event great. But I'm really diving into their business and, what they're currently doing and how they can help our members. And I'm also talking to these owners more than I ever was before. And I'm figuring out who they're using, who their supplier is, what they're needing, and I'm connecting them to our partners. So I feel like Limitless is the middleman, and I'm definitely experiencing that more than I ever have before. That's my experience with it. I'm really getting to know these companies. I got to know who they were when I worked at RoofCon, but really didn't know what they did to the level of who they are, if that made sense. It was kind of just now I'm really, really getting to know everybody. I'm getting to know the owners, the partners, and just how everybody can help each other.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I agree with you too. I think a lot more people are leaning on each other, not just, regionally, but locally as well. There's a couple contractors in our local area that have reached out to me in the past, and I'm grateful that they felt, comfortable enough to reach out to me because they watch this stuff, and they feel comfortable enough to reach out to me and ask me questions. And some of them are in the roofing industry. Some of them are in the siding industry. Some of them are in the fencing industry. I'm mentoring and coaching a few guys, 1 or 2 states away from me that we potentially dip into their state as well, because we cover multiple states. But I don't look at that as a threat, and I don't fear them whatsoever, because I'm a firm believer that all ships rise at high tide. And if they're doing good and we're doing good, Eric O just reached out to me and asked me to go look at a couple jobs for him. You know what I mean? So we partnered up. We've partnered up with other roofing contractors across the country and have become united. And I'm not saying all roofers have united, but there's a handful of us that have really united and pulled together to improve, one another's business, personal life, professional life, our companies, our employees' lives. You know what I mean? And it's great that we are where we're at today and where it's going, the shift that's happening right now. It's like we're uniting. And this is a skilled trade. For so many years, the roofing industry has gotten such a bad rap that, that they don't show up when they're supposed to show up. They're a bunch of alcoholic, drug addicts, and all this stuff. And it's really taken like this turn for the better of like this professionalism that a whole lot of us are trying to bring, and a lot of smart people like Dylan, you touched on. It's like, it's the who's that are coming into our industry right now. Like you came into our industry 4 years ago. Jenna came into our industry several years ago. Like people like you are coming into our industry. And I mean, the list goes on of the really smart people that are coming in, professional people that are coming into our space right now, that's really making it a better place, a better space. And we're getting a better reputation, I guess, for the trades, as far as trades go. And it's obvious, because why is private equity in our space at this moment? Because those guys are a bunch of professional hedge fund companies that come in and they got a lot of money, and they see that we're actually starting to do something right. Not that those that came before us didn't, but I feel like there's a lot of us that really want to leave this place better than it was when we found it. And I know that's one of our core values. So speaking on marketing, Jenna, this is still for you. What would you suggest? Because I talked about marketing, the old guerrilla style type of neighborhood marketing. But as far as like digital marketing and things like that, if I was getting into the business right now, what would you do if you wanted to start a roofing business next week, you and Dylan? What would you do? Where would your focuses be, and what would you do, and what message would you try to get out there?
I would first establish, what are the core values that we want, we want to share with the world. I think when you have those core values, you can really build your marketing off of that. Don't look at these other companies as your competitor, like we were saying a minute ago. See what they're doing, but also keep in mind of your core values, because their core values are going to be, completely opposite of yours, and they might be similar. But your marketing definitely is going to play a huge role in, presenting these core values to the world. I definitely think that that's one of the most important things. Got to have a good website. Having a good website is also very, very important. It's probably one of the most important things. Definitely would get a marketing company to do that. I've tried to build websites before and it's been a disaster. So I think that is also important too. So really scout out these companies, scout out the best of the best, who these companies are using, who these other roofing companies are using. Do your research and, get a good marketing company. Now, if you're just starting out, I know that's not a priority sometimes. You really just want to start selling roofs, but you have to have a good presence. You have to build that solid foundation of how, you want the future of your company to be. I think that sharing this content, I feel like I've hit a plateau with our posts, honestly, because, I feel like I'm doing the same content. I'm kind of just using, the same templates. And, Robert's very, very, he'll question you, he'll challenge you. And that's why I love the Limitless team, because they challenge me. But he's right. I think that, by the what's in it for me, every post should be a what's in it for me, or they're not going to engage with it. If it's just a pretty graphic of promoting a venue, they're not going to engage with it. So really thinking about your audience and how, putting yourself in the audience of who they're, the screen they're looking at. I think that when you put yourself in their position, you wouldn't be liking that post either. You want something, what's in it for me. So I think that the social content should definitely differ all the time, but have that in mind. Have a solid website and really build your marketing strategy on your core values, because you've got to have the company, presented in that same way all the time with the core values. So those are just my tips and what I have experienced currently, and how I'm getting better every single day with the marketing. But at Limitless, I want to focus more on partnerships now. But we were talking about that at RCAT last weekend, and how I can play, how I can help our partners with their marketing. Of how we can collaborate, Limitless, and, get more engagements on their posts, because they might have a tough time of reaching their audience on their social media. How we all can collaborate, and how owners can collaborate too. I think that, by coming to the Limitless Roofing Summit, we're going to have people just starting out, but we're also going to have people that are 10 years in the business. They might have not, prioritized their marketing, and the person that just started out their business might be ahead of them on their marketing. So it really doesn't matter how long you've been in business, just depends on your strategy and how you're implementing it and presenting that. But keeping that in mind of always your core values and what's in it for me. I think I'm going to get a shirt that says what's in it for me and have Robert Posey on there mentioned, because it's so important.
Hashtag Robert Posey.
Yeah, there we go.
Beautiful response. I really love what you said. It, and just to kind of solidify, a little deeper on, the partnership aspect of that too. Partnerships, networking, and referrals, I think, is something that we don't talk enough about. And for the longevity and sustainability of a company, and the quality of a company has a lot to do with those that you partner with early on in business. And if you can do business with people, a year to 5 years to 10 years in the business, that says a lot about that partnership. It says a lot about those individuals that have partnered together too. And because I've recently started to study a little more on, referring others to other people, and networking and things like that. And when I look over the course of the history of my career, there's a gentleman that we've done business with for almost 15 years now, and his network has actually become our network, and vice versa. We've referred partners and, back and forth with each other, and we still do work with him today. And the people that he's worked with, he's referred us to, and it's like how this has blossomed into it. And one of the things that I would like to mention here is, if you haven't really thought about this, like 50%, like think about what amount of referrals is part of your business. Okay. If it's 10%, shoot for 20. If it's 30%, shoot for 50. Like our goal right now is to keep our lead intake, coming from referrals. 50% of that needs to come from referrals, and it's, if a lot of people don't focus on that, aspect of things. They're more focused when it comes to marketing, Google SEOs, paid ads, pay-per-clicks, all these things, Facebook ads, all this stuff. And I think we've gotten away from the old school mentality of like partnerships, right? Being referred by somebody. And little do people know, every individual has a sphere of influence of 250 plus people. And if I'm that roofing guy and those 250 people that are in my phone right now, and then they have 250 people in their sphere of influence, like that in itself, and you're very intentional about that, right? 50%, that's our goal. Our goal next year is to have 50% of our business, our revenue, come from referrals. So set a goal. I would suggest to anybody listening out there, if I know companies that are only in business because of word of mouth. And of course they're, not huge businesses, but early on in business, I think one of the first things I would do is make sure that I galvanized my relationships and my partnerships and strengthened them and kept them strong along the way, along this journey. Dylan, do you want to give us any feedback or input on the marketing aspect of things?
No way, man. I'll leave that up to people like Jenna.
Okay. All right. Well, then let's start with some personal questions with you. Like, what is, in one sentence, would you like people to use in describing the way that you do business?
Admirable.
Admirable? That's what you want your headstone to say? I'm admirable? No, I took it.
There are very few other leaders that I truly admire, the better I get to know them. Usually the more you get to know someone, the less you admire them. But I've had a few mentors, by the grace of God, that the more I've gotten to know them, the more I admired them and stood in awe and was just so thankful to God to be in close proximity with them because of the impact they made on me. So that's my hope, is that as more people get to interact with our team, that they realize that I love our team. Like, I love working with Robert and Jenna and Miller, that they would have an admirable team that they know, wow, I'm much better off being close to these people.
Amen. Dude, that was such a great response, man. So far, you get the gold star on that that answer, bro, because I'm telling you, that was so good. And thank you for sharing that with us, because I'm going to keep that in mind for myself personally, right? To make sure that I'm admirable, right? Like that was so good. Jenna, I'm going to give you a stab at it too. What's one sentence you would like people to use in, terms of describing the way that you do business?
I think between inspiration and impact, those two play hand in hand for me. I have faced many obstacles the last few years, and my biggest thing is I want to make an impact. I want to inspire others that are going through life, going through career changes, everything. And knowing it's okay to step away sometimes, really to get that new perspective, and coming back so you can be even more impactful and being even more inspiring. So those are probably the two words that I want to live by, whether that's personally, professionally. I think when you have those two traits, you're inspiring others, but you're also impacting yourself. You're not just impacting others. I think we often forget about how we want to, at the end of the day, we want to know how many people we inspired, but are we inspiring ourselves? Because if you're not inspiring yourself every single day, you're not going to be making an impact. And I think that I've realized that, especially the last year. So definitely coming back to the industry really has helped me with doing that, of understanding my why and how I can do something. And that's through inspiration and impact.
Amen. Amen to that. You got to stay inspired. You got to make sure you're eating so you can feed other people. So I love that. So I'm going to give you guys one more, and then we'll sign out here. We're coming up on the 1 hour mark here. Thank you guys for being patient with us while Vic worked hard to get us back online here. Now, we did stay live the entire time on our YouTube channel, so this video is out there live right now as we speak, but thank you for your patience. So I got one more question for you guys. You can pertain it to personal or professional, but what problem or defeat have you been dealt, and how did you turn it into an asset?
I'll let Jenna go first.
All right, you're going to think on that one. I definitely think change change has been a big thing for me the last few years. How to adjust to change, but how to improve yourself during the change. I think that change is scary, but change is also needed, as cliche as that sounds. But it really gives you a new perspective and causes you to look through a different lens that you never would have looked at if it hadn't been for that change. So whether that's moving like I did, starting over, not knowing anyone in a new place, starting at a career where I've only ever really worked in the roofing industry, I think that you really find yourself. And I hate to be cliche and say every quote that's been said before, but change is all about finding yourself, and it leads you back to where you were meant to be. I mean, sometimes you were never going to be in that spot, the spot that you desire to be in, whether that's, promoted to, director. I think that stepping away is going to be more of an impact than staying somewhere where you're stagnant. So that's, personally, but then also professionally, I feel like I would have never been able to, I feel like the last few months being with Limitless, I've, thought back of how I did one thing at my last job and how I should have done things differently, but because of that experience, I'm able to turn it around and have it, impact Limitless and impact and bring my skills to the table. So all that's been possible because of change.
Mm-hmm. Amen to that. We have to go through what we have to go through in order to become the person that we are. And unfortunately, a lot of times that's self-inflicted pain, right? I don't grow without pain. And Ed Milet says, we got to keep in mind, like, this isn't happening to us, but this is happening for us. But we just got to figure out why this is happening for us at this moment. So Dylan, let's give you a stab at it. Do you want me to repeat the question, or
just the biggest challenge?
Yeah, that you've been able. How did you turn lemons into lemonade? I guess, in short.
Yeah, I think starting the GPO, the Limitless Roofing GPO, is a big one, because it was an idea. But how do you get a deal with a major supplier like SRS without a group? And how do you build a group without a deal? So it's kind of impossible to have to launch this rocket. Because there's no rocket to launch and there's no fuel. But by the grace of God, man, it just so happened that one of our members had a roofing supply business that he started, and he ended up selling it to SRS, got to know Dan Tinker, the CEO, and he said, I think this is starting a buying group's a great idea. I'll email the CEO of SRS and let's see what he says. So he emailed Dan Tinker, and he said, it's a guy named Dos Rousseau. He's a South African guy, a really cool guy. He said, hi, Dan, this is Dos. I'm in a group called Limitless CEO Group with Dylan McCabe, and he has a business idea I think you need to hear about. And Dan emailed back within 30 minutes and said, I'd love to meet with you guys. And we got a meeting booked. I met them at their corporate headquarters. It was like an episode of Shark Tank. When you talk about a major challenge, I was completely outgunned. I was totally punching way above my weight because I was sitting across from the CEO of SRS, who negotiates for a living. Sitting next to him was the head of all their mergers and acquisitions, who negotiates for a living. And to the other side was their VP of sales. And man, I think it was just from years of calling on doctors and owners of major healthcare organizations, just learning how to deal with those kinds of situations and steer it to the solution and deal with the problems and then offer up the solution. And then getting to where we are now, that's the biggest challenge I've ever faced in business anyway, not personally. That's a whole nother story. but in business, that's the biggest challenge. And the thing I learned is, I know we're beating a dead horse with a stick now, but it's who, not how. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't had Dos Rousseau in my group, in our CEO group, I never would have gotten a meeting with Dan Tinker. If I hadn't called on doctors for 2 years, who, by the way, their egos, I'm not making a broad sweeping statement here, but owners of major healthcare practices, the numbers in healthcare are way higher than roofing. Drugs cost a lot more than shingles. And some of these physicians are, they've got healthcare practices that are pumping out serious money. And they've been to school longer than anybody else, 12, 13, 15 years. So you're stepping into a situation where they think it's a privilege to be talking to them. And as you go in, there's a sales rep walking out, and before you leave, there's a sales rep walking in. So I think facing that challenge of starting something from scratch and burning our ships and putting it all on the line. Am I going to make my freaking house payment this month? That kind of stuff. Just going through that fire, man. That's the biggest challenge I've faced. But I've learned that, God, if you ask, I'm a big believer in prayer. And if you ask God, surround me with the right people, I believe he will. And those people have enabled us to make it and to really start getting ahead.
Yeah, no, I love that. Beautiful response. And that kind of threads this all together, relationships, partnerships, right? Referrals, your network, your friendships, and being a good friend, being a good referral partner, right? Like how now it's time for you, and I'm sure you already have, but if you haven't, again, I'm sure you have, is to reciprocate that to your friend that turns you on to Dan Tinker and those guys over there. Those are the life lessons that we learn along the way, is just galvanizing those relationships, man. Relationships and partnerships, man, are exactly how we all on this call right now have gotten where we're at today. And we need to remember that, never forget where we came from. And don't hesitate to reach out randomly, because I do that with my friend Eric, who I talked about earlier. Not just on his birthday and not just on Christmas and stuff like that do I reach out to him, but every now and then randomly, man. I get this overwhelming feeling of gratitude, and it's like, what? I'll just start sending out some gratitude text messages to these people, whether they know it or not, that have helped us get where we're at today. And they think I'm half crazy sometimes, because they're like, why are you thanking me randomly? A random text message, thank you, thank you. My family and I and all of our coworkers, co-leaders, thank you. And they're kind of, and you know what? And maybe it might help turn their day around, because they're getting kicked in the guts. It's so many of us managers and entrepreneurs and do on a day-to-day basis, because we're trying to inspire those around us, and sometimes we need that inspiration and that gratitude text message every now and then. So I'm just going to throw that out there real quick, not to forget where we come from, bum, and thank those that helped us get where we're at today. So with that concludes another kick-ass episode of Behind the ToolBelt. You guys did such an amazing job. Thank you for being patient with us, everybody out there, while we were having some disconnect issues with Facebook. But until next week, you guys take care of each other. Jenna, Dylan, thank you for coming on the show. If you haven't, everybody out there haven't liked, loved, subscribed, shared, commented, please do that. And don't forget to check us out next week. I think it is Becca Schweitzer who is our guest next week. The week after that, we will be going live. I don't know what time. It's either 7 or 8 a.m. live from, what is it? GEHA
Field at Arrowhead Stadium, the Chiefs Stadium.
Yeah.
Limitless Roofing Summit.
That's right. Limitless Roofing Summit. We're going to be going live actually on Tuesday, because our flights won't allow us on Wednesday to get back to the studio in time. So we'll be going live from Kansas City, Limitless Roofing Summit, October 1st, right? Be there, be square. Till then,
Yep.
You guys have a good rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Ty.
Thank
Thank you.
you.